Hello, Internet. Welcome to another episode of Chai and Chill. I have with me a book reader, book blogger, fashion and makeup enthusiast, French teacher. I'm sure it's not in that order, and my friend Sarika joining us.
Amazing. Hi.
Hello. So, this is me being not wanting to do my burtan anymore.
This is me. I got this out especially for you. It's just an accessory on my bookshelf, but I thought, since this is very special, let's finally bring it out. Cheers.
Cheers. Like how I
had it like
chai, like
no, that's exactly what it's like.
Sarika and I met on your WhatsApp group which was dedicated to bibliophiles and book readers. Do you remember how we started talking one-on-one and so we introduced ourselves? What actually sparked our conversation?
See, I remember we introduced ourselves on group and everything, and you actually messaged me first asking for the reading's email address because you wanted to ask if we'd be willing to read your book, which I have read it was collide. So you emailed about this, and I was quite excited because I had spoken to you before, so I thought I should just read it because I'm really curious to know what she's written and how she's written it and everything. So when I read her email, I remember I texted Janvi immediately because I see all the emails in the morning and she sees them some other time during the day. So I was like, dude, you are not going to open that email. That is for me. I'm going to take care of it because I so want to read Anisha's book. And that's where it all started. I remember when I was reading the book also, I did message you a couple of times as I was reading it. And then we just hit it off from there. Here we are now.
Yeah, I remember you told me that this romance and the whole subtle romance is more of Janvi's genre, forte. She likes
Right.
books. So I can imagine why you
Because it was you I wanted to read.
I came across your blog and a lot of other people's blogs because I think we wanted to create that community of people who read each other's blogs. So what made you partner up with Janvi to create the Read Addict book blog?
Okay, so I remember this was way back in 2012 and Janvi and I was sincerely following each and every book blog where we had all these email subscriptions and everything. And then once I just thought that, why don't I try starting my own book blog because it's pretty easy, you're just writing about the books that you're reading, and since I was reading all the time, I used to read some 2 books back in the day per week. So I thought, I'll just give it a go, and it was an epic thing. It was an absolute epic thing. So that's when I told Janvi to step in and help me, and she is excellent with research and all of this technical stuff. So she did all of that, and I already had some reviews with me because I used to review on Goodreads before that. So I started making the posts slowly, and then she was looking at the platforms that we should look at and the codes and everything that go into making your posts very attractive and all of that. So that was her department, and that's how we started the reading. The name actually came up over coffee one day, and we were like, okay, so we are just 2 girls addicted to reading. So Read Addicts, and then we were like, okay, let's just make it Readings. That's how it happened.
That is a very clever pun on both the things, reading and being addicted to reading. The other thing I want to ask you is your logo is an owl. How did you decide on that? So cute.
Actually,
That
I
owl
have
is
no
so
idea.
cute.
It's just, I don't know, I always associated, owls are usually associated with wisdom, right? And apparently reading books is supposed to make you wise. I don't know. Who are we to judge? But that's how it came up, and also mainly because of Hedwig from Harry Potter. So I was always fascinated by Hedwig. She's one of my favorite characters from Harry Potter, and so I thought let's just make it into an owl. And Janvi had no obligation, so we just went ahead with it.
Yeah. Okay. Now you have started obviously the long format blogs that we know as of when we started blogging back in, I think we were pretty active around 2012, 13, 14, around that time.
Well, correct.
Then there was a shift from that to Twitter, where people would, it would be microblogging became a thing, and finally now it's Bookstagram that has become a thing, and we have kept up with the times as best as we could. How was it seeing Readdicts grow from being a blog to then becoming Twitter, and then finally having a dedicated Bookstagram? What was that journey like?
So that journey is something that just happened very naturally. Actually, it didn't happen very, very naturally, but it was when, so I used to post all of my Bookstagram pictures on my own account, which used to be public back then, because obviously I wanted to, interact with others from the community and everything. And then I saw these pages that were dedicated wholly and solely to books. And I was like, wow, so it's just this one site, that's Instagram, where all you do is post a picture. Nobody cares what you've written in the caption. It could be a long review, or it could be like 2 hashtags or something. But nobody really bothers to read. They look at the picture, they double tap it, and boom, you have like some 1,000 likes. And you're doing so well, publishers are contacting you and everything. And that's when I had what is called, I don't know what term we use in English, but in French we have this term called prise de conscience, which is like this realization, it just hits you out of nowhere. And I remember I told Janvi, I was like, dude, there are all these people who are into Bookstagram and they're probably earning money from it or what, I have no idea. But they are doing so well, and we are sitting here writing these long-ass reviews to even know if anyone reads them anymore. So that's when I thought we'd start a Bookstagram account for the Readdicts, especially for the Readdicts. And so I started step by step. When I first started it, we were still blogging. We used to blog regularly. But eventually, once both of us started working, we stopped blogging entirely. We would post like 1 or 2 posts per month, sometimes not even that. And now I have completely shifted base to Instagram, and it's going really well because like I said, nobody really cares what you say in the caption. You just need to have like a really nice, attractive picture. And I have both my boys who are sleeping here. They are very cooperative. They let me take pictures with them, and it also helps me explore my creative side. So that part is very interesting. But I do miss writing reviews, But then again, I don't read as much as I did back then, so I don't know how it's going to be.
I don't know, because right now I don't get people messaging me for book reviews. I used to get those a lot, saying that, hey, do you want your book to be reviewed? Now I get messages like, I have so many followers on Insta, do you want me to do a feature with your book? And I'm like, why?
I know, same here. It's like, I need a promo.
So the thing is, I understand if somebody like you or Devdatta does it, but this was a girl who messaged me who's an Instagram model per se, and she just poses with products.
Wow. I still don't get this, like I'm an Instagram model or I'm an Instagram blogger. Like blogger is blogger. I don't know why people associate like Instagram and blogger.
So obviously I checked out her profile, and then I realized that this girl has nothing to do with reading. Like, even if you post with my picture and you get like 1,000 likes, it will not convert into sales or readership. Forget sales. Like, nobody will even want to go to KU and download my book for free and read it for a month.
Also remember, now that we're talking about it, back in the day when we used to get review requests, it was always like, if possible, publish a review on Goodreads, publish a review on Amazon. I don't really see authors do that these days. I mean, I don't remember last time someone told me that, please post your review on Amazon or something.
Yeah, that's also because Amazon has become very strict with their review policies, because there were so many, it became a business of Amazon buying and selling reviews, and a lot of people highlighted it. Now, until and unless you declare that I have read this book because the author gave it to me for free, or you are a verified purchase, they don't let the review go up on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I know, because I'm on the other side. That's a very weird world that I'm in.
The author. Right.
Okay, the other thing that I truly admire is the IGTV series that you started. Honestly, if I talk about it, then this entire thing that we are doing right now, Chai and Chill, I got so inspired seeing your IGTV series. I tried doing that, and then I was like, let me do something a little more bigger scale. Plus, my YouTube was sitting there idle, and I thought of, okay, let's just do Chai and Chill. So what prompted you to start IGTV series where you read?
Okay, so it was right. Oh, by the way, before I tell you my story, I really like yours as well, and I think you should continue. Maybe feature Felix as well in one of those IGTV readings. But so for me, it was actually an article that I read where J.K. Rowling was encouraging school teachers to read from her books and record a video of them reading from the Harry Potter series and put it out on the internet for the school children, because we're all in this lockdown right now.
Yeah.
So that's where the idea came up, and I thought, since my school children also, I used to teach in a school for 4.5 years. So my students are very active online. They all follow me on Instagram. So I thought, I should do something for them, because I'm sure they were bored, they were all missing school and everything. So that's how it started. And I never mentioned this, that I'm doing it only for them or whatever. I was just doing it because it was giving me something to do in the end of the day. But I got a really positive response from the school kids and also from other people who have been following our blog for a long time. And now it's like every time I sit down to read, it's very, I don't know what to say. It's very amazing for me because I get back to some of my favorite reads. So, I mean, I've not reread all of the books that I read from, but just reading a few excerpts from them, it makes me so happy. It takes me back to those old days, when I used to read like 2 books in a day or something. So that's really nice.
I think as time went on, all of us stopped reading as much as we used to. There was a time I could finish a book in a day. I can't do it anymore. I don't remember the last time I did it.
Now there are so many distractions that I'm like, oh boom, there's a notification on Instagram. Oh, someone's saying something on Twitter. Oh, there's a notification from Facebook. So I feel all of that also gets in the way sometimes, which is why then when I read, I just make sure my phone is not with me. I just put it away and I read. I'll go in another room and...
Yeah, but for me it's a little difficult because I live away from my parents. I have to keep my phone on loud, because if they miss one message or one call, they will assume the worst. I don't know why. Sometimes I have to tell them that, guys, I will also go to the washroom. What do you want me to do? Text you and tell you that I will not be available for the next 15 minutes.
Right.
But I understand, because we are in the middle of a global pandemic, everybody's fear has just escalated.
And you also are a parent now, right, to Felix, so I guess your day is you're just behind him all the time, or he's behind you all the time.
Actually, no. So one of the things that happened was, since I was living absolutely alone and I am alone, I don't even have a flatmate or a roommate. There were days that I was so lazy, I wouldn't really want to get up and cook 3 meals a day. And there was a day I actually asked myself, do you really need to eat thrice? Now with Felix, I have a very definite schedule. I know I have to wake up at this time. I know I have to feed him at this time. I have to clean his litter box at this time. And he's a very fussy cat. If I don't clean his litter box on time, he yells at me. So it is because of, I am very thankful that I adopted him, because my life has become much more, it's fallen into a good schedule. And of course, once he is done with his business, he just goes off to sleep. He anyway naps for 18 hours a day. So.
No, same here.
But I thought doggies were a little more active, or they're like, no, I'm also quarantining to chill.
Did you see Simba's tail, by the way?
Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree with you, because and now that I get to spend more time with them, I used to spend time with them before as well, but not as much as I would have liked. But now we have like this proper morning ritual, and we have an evening ritual where we go on walks. Then we have a feeding ritual, and then we have a grooming session. So it gives me something to do, and it makes me so happy that I get to spend more time with them, like way more time than I would have ever thought. They are around me all the time, which makes all of us very happy. I guess they do get irritated though sometimes, because I make them, wear all these bow ties and bandanas and click pictures. But I give them treats. Like I even have a box of Cheetos with me here. So I guess everyone is happy.
Yeah, Felix is very happy. So he was a rescue first, and then I adopted him because He is one of those cats who had such a terrible time in the outside world. He doesn't want to go to the outside world. So his first response when we open the main door is he goes under the bed. Like he's so terrified that I will leave him. So I have to constantly reassure him that you are safe here. There's nobody going to take, nobody's going to ever take you away from me. You are safe. If I ever go back to Calcutta, I will take you with me. It's just funny.
That's nice.
But I was
That's
about
actually
to
very,
ask. Yeah, sorry. Go
Yes,
on.
yes. No, I was saying that's actually very unusual for a cat, because all the cats I know, they are always like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I want, and they don't normally stay at home. So I think you're very lucky.
So that's touch wood. After Peepo, this is the next cat that I have, and I had sworn that I would never take another cat because losing a pet, God forbid, it was the most heartbreaking thing I ever experienced, and that is when my parents told me that this is why we told you don't get a pet. You have no idea what kind of the heartbreak thing. Years later I got this one, and he reminds me a lot of people. He has the same attitude. The only difference is he is very different. He does not like going outside, which is honestly all my cats have always wanted to go out. This is the first cat I'm seeing who's like, no, I'm going to stay in the house. You can't do anything about it.
So this is the first cat I know who doesn't want to step out of the house.
Yeah, he's good. The last day I took him saying that there's nothing to be afraid of. He just ran away. He's like, how dare you? So his rescuer came to pick up his basket the other day, and he went under the bed. I told the guy that don't, ring the doorbell. He's scared of the doorbell. The guy decided to knock, and I was like, when I told you don't ring the doorbell, shouldn't you have called? And poor thing, Felix refused to come out of the house till the guy left. I mean, and obviously the guy was like, I rescued you, I saved you, what is?
That's cute.
I was about to ask you, haven't you seen that because you have, Simba and Tiger, your life has become more structured? Because you know that this is their time.
So, continue. You were saying?
Yeah, I was about, asking you that only, that there's a structure to it, because this is their time, this is your time, and you need to get all your work done between that time, because again, in the evening they will come and they will expect you to take them on a walk.
Right. One thing it's really helped me with is my sleeping schedule. I mean, I anyway have like a proper sleeping schedule, but since the lockdown, it was all messed up because, all of us were mentally messed up, so we had no idea what to do. But now we've gotten back into a schedule where I take Simba out at 6 o'clock in the morning, and after him it's Tiger. So that really helps me, because I wake up early, I get like a nice workout done with the two of them. So it leaves me feeling very refreshed for the entire day. For them, they just go back to sleep. So, the life.
But they don't go on the walks together?
No, I take them separately. Because they both have like their different styles of walking. Simba does like a proper structured walk where he's just walking. Tiger wants to explore everything. He wants to say hi to every human, every plant, every dog, like basically everything that gets in his way. So I have to take them separately. But that's good because it gives me more time to spend with them individually.
I like this, So the other thing is, I always assumed, or in my head, I always thought that when I am settled or when I am, I know that this is where my life is going to be headed, I always wanted to adopt a black cat. God had other plans and gave me Felix, but yeah. But I like the fact that you have these individual time slots for the two dog boys and good boys as well.
Right. And then once we are back, the feeding ritual is together. So both of them have both the meals they have together. The grooming session also. I mean, obviously I don't groom them at the same time, but then I groom them in the presence of each other. So that's fun. It gives me something to do. It gives me something to look forward to, twice a day. So that's great.
I am actually very glad that I adopted him. Like the only person in my family who knows that I have adopted a cat. My friends obviously know. My sister has no idea. My mom has been super supportive about it. Because the other thing that I realized is they are very good as emotional support. Like last Sunday, my phone stopped working And because I just told you that I use my phone as an internet hotspot. So the minute your phone stops working, my connection to the outside world was cut off. And I could feel a panic attack coming on. And I think so did Felix. I don't know where he was. He came and he sat on my lap, and it gave me, suddenly I could focus, and I knew that, okay, the next thing is just go out, get your phone fixed. If you can't get your phone fixed, just get another phone. That is the next step. And
so just having him on your lap without him even saying anything, it's like it's so magical, right?
Yeah, so the thing is, I don't know what happened. It was more about I could focus and I knew what to do next. Instead of losing it, I could actually go out and power through it, I guess. So I just wanted to know,
you should write this down.
Has Simba or Tiger ever helped you through such a thing where you were about to, have a, for lack of a better word, say a mental break, and they were just there and they knew before you did that?
See, luckily for me, I mean, usually these episodes, so to say, happen at night for me, because then I just, I start overthinking, and you know how it is. It's all
it's a thought spiral, yes.
So then Tiger actually sleeps in my room every night. So just knowing that he's around, he's sleeping, I doubt he even cares. So he's just sleeping, but just knowing that he's there, it's very reassuring that, okay, there's someone here with me. And then what I do is I just lie down with him for some time, and he lets me do that. He doesn't push me away or anything. So that's really sweet, knowing that he's there. He's not saying anything, he's not doing anything, but he's just there for me.
Yeah, I think it's just their presence can just help you focus a lot.
Exactly.
Because there is somebody. I'm happy. Just talking about them makes me so happy. Which brings me to the other thing that has made me so happy, is all the YA reads that you recommend. I was fangirling over What If It's Us in the morning, and I couldn't stop talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think you recommended the book to me, saying that you should read it. It's a good book. I actually don't remember.
What If It's Us?
Yeah, it's by Becky Albertari and Adam Silvera.
Oh yes, I did, but I'm not sure I have read it. No, I haven't. Maybe I just told you about it or something. I must have read good review.
Maybe you did, because a lot of, in our circle, a lot of people were reading it and they really loved it. So a lot of people told me to read it. But the other thing is, YA fiction is something that we both read, and especially YA fiction that concentrates on LGBTQIA themes.
Okay.
So I know you wrote an entire blog post about it, and it got read a lot. Like the traction on that.
I wrote 2 articles. You remember, for Buzz? I wrote one recently and the old one.
The old one was more about the cutesy books, like all the cute books, and these were a little more serious. But the traction on the blog post has been extremely high. It did really, really well. I actually got a message from Medium saying that this blog post is doing well.
Wow.
So I wanted to know, did you come across any other books, save that, over the years that you would love to talk about?
So, over the years, well, that's going to require a lot of thinking. But in this one, I did read these 2 very interesting books. Actually, I have them here. I'll just quickly show it to you. So, both these books are on child abuse, okay? And they were extremely disturbing, very heartbreaking. But it just gives you so much of information, it tells you about what really goes on. So these are the 2 books. It's called Please Daddy No, and one called Sickened. So this one is you know what it is about.
Yeah.
But this one called Sickened was actually about it's this disorder where the parents, even though the child is perfectly healthy, they pretend as if they don't pretend, they make sure that there is something medically wrong with the child, just to get some validation for themselves. So it's called this, I don't know what the disorder is called, but it was very interesting. So I thought I'd just show you these 2. Maybe you could read up on it. It's
The second book, I think it's based on a true incident because I read someone's blog.
It is, yes.
Yeah. I remember reading a blog about it, and it goes into the details of finally the child fights back against the parents, I think.
Right, they do. So it was a really interesting read for me because I had never come across something like this, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. Also, I read Albert Camus' The Plague, which I read at the very beginning when COVID was declared as a pandemic. I was freaked out. It just made me very paranoid, because everything was just so apt, the entire situation and everything. But in a way, it also prepared me for what was to come. I mean, I remember I was telling my family that, what, this lockdown is not over. It's going to go on for like 6 months, maybe even 8 months, who knows. So it was both like it scared me, but at the same time, it also gave me an idea about what to expect. So I was mentally prepared. I think.
Yeah, you ended up again writing a blog for Buzz saying the 5 reasons you should read the book.
Oh, right. I did.
And that blog post also did really well. See, your blog post do very well.
And then the other day you told me that I can even blog about whatever else I'm reading. Like, remember I was telling you I don't really read books, I'm just reading articles and stuff. And I might take that into consideration. So thank you.
So the thing is, when I
started always inspiring me.
Oh, you're welcome. The thing is, when I started my blog, I started because, I started it in 2008. So I used to write a lot of poetry over there. Then slowly I started, I called it musings because I started writing about the things I was observing in everyday life. And yesterday, since I have to teach kids blogging, I was doing an analysis and I realized that my short stories get more traction and get more hits. And that is probably because people associate me as a writer rather than a blogger. So people, when they are looking for stuff that I have written, they'll go for the short stories.
Is that going for you, teaching blogging to children?
They are not really children. I like calling them kids because they are younger to me. But
okay. I know anyone is a kid. I totally get that.
Finally, yeah. So it's going to happen from 5. So let's see. I sent the initial deck to the person who's organizing it. The person was impressed. They were like, oh my god, what is this?
That's nice. It's your first session today or you have been doing this?
No, my first session is today. I have to see how well. Yeah, thank you. Oh, so one thing that I actually wanted to ask you before we go into the next next section. This will be my blooper. Section of Chai and Chill was, you said that a lot of your students follow you on social media. I have a lot of readers as well who are in the age bracket of 16 to 20. Do you feel this, invisible pressure of always being very careful of how you not represent, rather I would say what you speak, because you have very impressionable kids also looking up to you?
Right. It scares me, I mean, because obviously you can't just use whatever language you want. You have to be super careful. But I just take it as a way to maybe educate them more than what they learn in the classroom. Probably things that will end up making them better human beings. That's the whole point, really. Even as a teacher, like teaching and all is fun. Teaching French it's like the best thing ever for me. But actually, if they take back something else from me, I'm just so happy. And they do tell me that, ma'am, I did this because of you, or I started reading books, or I saw this animal and I tried to feed it or give it milk or something. And I just feel so nice, that because they do learn from what they see and not from what you keep telling them all the time. So I guess if I end up doing that, then success.
Yes, that is something I felt, because you've not read the first book I wrote. The first book I wrote it when I was really young, and the hero is not a very nice person. He's this...
The secret proposal, right?
Yeah. So he's like this masochistic character. He does not treat the girl well and all that. And at that point of time, I am old enough to know that is abuse. That point of time, it was romanticized because, Bollywood was doing it and a lot of TV serials were doing it, and I was heavily inspired by that. And I have these kids who come up to me and say, oh my god, I want a guy like that. And I'm like, no. So later on, I made this conscious effort to write much better male characters. Like Ashwin is a. So every time they come and tell me that I want to date Veer, I am like, go read All Things Read back to you. Date Ashwin. He's a nicer person. See, he's the guy you go for. So I realized the responsibility I suddenly had, and I had to write better characters, and I had to, talk to these kids and tell them that what I did was wrong. I have to find ways to redeem the character again.
No, but yours are honestly some of the most relatable characters I've read about. I mean, it's just like, it's just like you're reading about yourself. So that's what I really like about your books. It's always the characters. The story is of course wonderful as always, but the characters make the story what it is.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I started writing about the way I was writing is because I realized there's a severe lack of it and people need to talk about it. Like Akriti's father is an alcoholic. I wrote about that and then you won't believe it, Sarika, there were so many mails coming in saying that I didn't know that this is okay to talk about. My dad is also in the same situation. And what? Suddenly I heard this plethora of emails from kids who were in similar situations and they found somewhere to relate. And because Akriti was fighting back, they also got that strength to fight back. So that was amazing for me.
That's the whole point of being inclusive, right? It's not just these big words that you use, but it's like daily stuff that you see around that we need to start normalizing. Normalize the word of the day, I guess.
The only thing I am not okay with is how this whole lockdown is the new normal. I'm so tired of hearing that. Okay. Coming back to a slightly happier topic. It's the month of July. It's Harry Potter month. You dressed up Simba in pure house colors and you tagged all of us and asked us that, do your own Harry Potter posters well. I would love to see them. For me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, I don't have my Harry Potter books with me. I don't have any of the merch. What do you suggest I do?
Okay, so I was cleaning my room yesterday and I got out something for you, and that is this. Okay, so this is just a random stick that I found. It's not even from my own front yard or backyard or whatever. It's actually something that I found on the road when I was walking Tiger and Simba. And it looks like a wand, right? But it's not. It's not a wand. And I have used this, trust me, I have used this in so many pictures and no one has ever told me that, that's not a wand, that's not a real wand, that's just a stick. So you just have to look at things in a different way. So this was that rare case where, as a witch, I choose the wand didn't choose me, I just put it off the road. Besides, one more thing you could do is, the colors of your house. So for example, I'm a Gryffindor. What's your house?
So years ago,
yeah. Let's take the test again.
Years ago, I took the test when I was barely 13 or 14 and it said that I am a Slytherin. And I was so heartbroken, I never took it again.
No, but see, if you are a Slytherin, which I don't believe you are, but even if you are, I'm sure you have something green in your wardrobe. And knowing you, I am 100% sure you have some silver earrings with you. So you could just use those as inspiration. That's what the whole point was, to have a Harry Potter themed picture. So I'm not asking you to show me your merch or your collection or whatever. Just make something that's going to spread positivity.
I think I'm inspired. I'm going to wear the silver earrings, wear a green dress, pick up Felix and take a picture because Felix is a cat.
Pick a random stick.
And
right. That's like you're perfect.
Cats are associated as being, cats have always been associated with witches way before Harry Potter even came into existence. Like, I remember
my most idea, Anisha.
Yeah. So I remember my mom has a black cat and she rescued the black cat because she was a black cat and obviously she was getting abused. Like, don't even ask how human beings' brains function. It's beyond me. So she is also an indoor-outdoor cat. I remember I was outside waiting on this side of in front of my house's gates, and her name is Choti. Choti is trotting up and there, and I suddenly see a woman with her daughter. She's touching her daughter and she's saying, "Don't cross the road, don't cross the road." And my cat was so sad. She just left up and she climbed onto my shoulder, and you should have seen the look on the woman's face. Because here I was, a girl holding a black cat, and the woman was scandalized to it.
No, but you're right, people are crazy.
It was so funny.
Picture.
I will
I've
send
never
you a picture of
seen
Choti. You would love her. She will remind you of Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay. Send it to me, I'll see.
Absolutely. So that is our inspiration for Harry Potter themed posts. I like how you
Also,
don't believe
if you
that.
have sorry?
Yes. So I was just saying that it's amazing how you don't believe I'm a Slytherin. I could be.
Still don't believe, or maybe I'll take another week to process this fact. Give me some time. No, I was saying that even if you have 2 devices on your laptop, you could just open up there are many free Harry Potter wallpapers, and then you could click it from your phone or something. Maybe just put in some books, whatever books you have that match your house colors or something. You could always do that.
Okay. I think the order that we decided on just got jumbled, and I ended up asking you. It's like how conversations are. You have a map, and then it just goes everywhere.
That's why I was like, the whole Virgo planning, it's all gone now.
No, plus we also had to reshoot this thing thanks to bad internet. So because I was going through my questions and saying, what did I miss? Okay, I've asked her everything.
I know we spoke about anything and everything really.
So last thing that I want to ask you, something that I am personally very fascinated by is you being a French teacher. I'll tell you why it is so fascinating for me. My mom studied in Pondicherry in the ashram where French was the medium for learning everything. So when I wanted to learn a new language, I wanted to learn Spanish. She asked me to learn French because she said, at least I can help you. But to me, it was always so fascinating that anybody can speak French because it is a very difficult language. I remember doing my A1 level and going, oh my God, why? And here you are not only fluent in the language, you teach kids the language. How is that different from, your other aspect of your life completely?
So, well, see, French is something that... so I came across French at the age when people normally come across, I guess, alcohol, drugs and sex. I was a teenager. When I started learning French, and I fell in love with the language, So luckily for me, one of my teachers saw that. She saw how passionate I was about, learning the language, and she pushed me ahead to continue my further studies in the language. So that was just, I just grew passionate about it. I fell in love with it actually. You could say French is my first love. And right now it's not very different. I mean, if I were to compare teaching to an IGTV video, it's pretty much the same, because it's just that here when I'm doing an IGTV, there is no one in front of me except for my dogs, who don't really care what I say anyway. But it's the same in the classroom. You have students who are sleeping, you have students who pretend to listen, you have students who are over enthusiastic. It's just that in a classroom you get interrupted way too many times than in an IGTV reading. So it's just, I mean, I think it's quite similar actually. There's not much of a difference. I think talking to some 30-35 children has made recording these IGTVs very easy for me, because I'm not afraid of speaking. That's the thing. Had I done the IGTV before?
Because you spend obviously a lot of your time being a student. Now, how is it being on the other side?
It's quite fun actually, but it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult because you don't just go and teach. There is so much of other stuff that goes into it, You have to plan your class, you have to plan the textbook that you're going to use. You have to sometimes change your entire lesson plan, because there are days when you're very enthusiastic, chalo, today I'm going to teach this, and then the class is not interested. It's just one of those days where they don't want to study. So then you have to change your entire plan. Then you have to come up with some fun activity. Then you have paper setting, paper corrections. Oh God, that is the worst. And also, the worst is notebook corrections. Actually, that is the worst. If you ever decide to be a teacher, just make sure they don't use notebooks, because correcting notebooks is irritating. It's a headache.
I don't think I'm ever going to be one. I tried teaching, so it was one of my first ever jobs was teaching a child English, and I realized very early on that this is not something I'm cut out for. I have to teach kids.
Teaching part is amazing. I know.
I have to teach kids how to blog, but that is okay. That is something I know that I have nothing to give or take from it. I'm just going to tell them what I know. If they take it, they do it. I am not responsible for them. But for you, you have to be responsible for the kids. Because if they don't do well, I'm sure the principal comes and asks you that why aren't they doing well? What is up?
The principal, the parents, they all come to me, and because actually here, this is where it's an advantage that I teach a foreign language, because most parents don't know anything about it. So they are always like, ma'am, we don't know anything, so we leave it up to you. And I love that they leave it up to me, because then I get to do it my way. Whereas if it's something like maths and science, people give it so much of importance that they already have these set ideas in their head. Maths ऐसे होना चाहिए, science ऐसे होना चाहिए. With French, it's not really like that. I'm free to do it the way I want to do it, which is the best part. That and the actual teaching part. But everything else that comes with being a teacher, it's not as easy as it sounds.
This is fascinating for me because I am so used to seeing your posts where you do write about French, and I'm like, okay, मेरे सर से ऊपर से जाएगा. I don't remember. I only remember basic French. And that is also not enough because my mom keeps talking to me in French, and then she says that what did you do in that one course? And it was an A-level course, mom, leave me alone.
So what do you actually remember? You remember bonjour, comment ça va, and all of that?
Yeah, I remember all the very basic things. It was so basic. But my pronunciation is obviously off because it was a Bengali guy who was teaching us, so his pronunciation was also off. So we never picked up the correct pronunciation, which was embarrassing. But talking to you,
favorite things to teach.
Yeah, so I think the pronunciation for French is really important.
It is. Actually, it's very easy, contrary to popular belief. Once you get the hang of it, actually it depends. If you have a really good teacher who teaches you the right way to pronounce, you will just nail it. And you don't have to ever worry about going wrong with your pronunciation.
I'm pretty sure all your students are happy because they have you for their teacher. I realize now that I'm thinking back to my school days, the subjects I like, it was mostly because I like the teacher. A teacher can make or break your subject. Like there was one teacher, I loved English literature, but there was this one teacher that I didn't like. So I couldn't concentrate on the subject because I just couldn't get past not, getting over the fact that I don't like this woman.
But and even back in the day when we were students, we had these very strict teachers, and when I decided to be a teacher, I was like, I am not going to be like them. I still am terrified to approach my teachers. So I always promised myself that when I become a teacher, I will be extremely approachable. I'll always be there for my students, whether it is for French or otherwise. So I try.
Okay, speaking of French and IGTV and Instagram, one thing I started noticing is the quizzes on philosophy that you do, which I'm so terrified to take because I'm sure I'll just get wrong answers. What inspired that?
Why? So that is actually okay. So I did my master's in French, right, and it was French literature. My specialization was literature, and that's where I was introduced to philosophy. I was also introduced to philosophy as a political science graduate. But those were the days when I was also out there having fun. I didn't really focus 100% on studies. So where the interest in philosophy developed during masters, and now that I have some time to finally sit down and read and research on it, I just thought, basically philosophy is life. I don't know why people find it very boring or very useless or whatever, but it has some very important answers, or it has very important questions, who knows. So that's why I thought just to create some awareness, I'll start putting up these quizzes, and don't be afraid to take them. sometimes even I don't know the answer. I just have to. I have to think so much to come up with those options that are very close to each other. Helps me do research.
So the thing is, I had comparative literature as my specialization, because it was in my bachelor's, in my master's, then I did my MPhil. In my MPhil, I found a way to connect literature to publishing, and it was a whole thing because I wrote my entire thesis about the Indian publishing market. But we had to study philosophy as well, and I remember going that, what is this? This is jack of all trades. Why are you making us study all this? Because when I see your stories and all, I'm like, I am reminded of college, but I'm so embarrassed to admit that I don't remember. What was I doing in college? Why don't I remember things?
It's okay, just try answering. So what if you're wrong?
Okay, I think we are towards the end of our chaying and chilling. One thing, obviously because of the global pandemic, we have seen a surge in all things digital. What's the one trend you wish that would just pick up, and one trend that you wish would just die? You can choose not to answer the second one.
What?
Second one was one thing you wish you would die, a trend. Then I said you can choose not to answer that.
Yeah, because I can't think of one. But the one thing I do wish stays is this whole I'm here for you thing. I mean, it's just so nice when, I don't know if you remember, but when the lockdown was first imposed, we had all these, that bingo and all these crazy internet games where we were tagging each other and
Yes.
everyone was doing. I found that to be very fun because every time I saw someone tag me in something, I just went like, oh wow, so this person actually remembers me and it's so sweet of them to tag me. So I really hope that continues, because once we get back to our normal busy lives, we don't really care what everyone is up to because we are so busy doing our own thing. But I do wish this carries on where we are constantly tagging each other, making each other do stuff. That's fun because it gives you something to do. It leaves you feeling hopeful also sometimes. One trend I wish would die. I don't know. What do you think should go away?
I don't really know, because I honestly don't know, because I saw so much of good things happening during the lockdown and so much of
Exactly.
productivity. It was really nice to see people step out of that. Like, I have been busier than ever because I work in a digital agency. So for ad agencies, their work has not stopped. It has in fact doubled. And on top of that, I kept having these ideas like, oh, let me try this, oh, let me try that.
I know you and your ideas are.
I don't know, they just come to me and I'm just so happy. And the best part is, people like you, people like Pratibha, Devdatta Di, Shamarpita Di, you just agree to do it. And I am so grateful. And all of you are like, yeah, we'll do it. For you, we'll do it. I was like, yes, I did yes.
I was actually very nervous, but then I did it for you. Obviously, I did it for you.
I don't
do
know.
anything.
Just, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me for Chai and Chill. This was amazing
Thank
talking
you.
to you.
No, we should do it more often, like just a casual